Welcome everyone to So What Were You Wearing? I'm your host, Heidi Townshend, and we have a very special guest today. I'm just so thrilled. And she's tuning in with us right now from Madison, Mississippi. And so Anna Wright, welcome to the show. So what were you wearing?
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, totally. And just so our viewers know, Anna is a nurse, and we're talking, she's just experienced the most incredible 2 years, as we all have, right, with the pandemic. And I just want to honor and salute you for all the work you've done to take care of people during this crazy time. So
it's been a steep learning curve, that's for sure.
I can only imagine, right? Yeah, so we're just really, again, honored to have you here and really want to hear your story. And what I'll do before we start is I'll just remind our viewers that I don't know Anna's story yet. I, like you, am going to be listening in to the story that she will tell as it unfolds, and we'll both experience the same excitement together. So Anna, I just, you've given me little bits and pieces, but nothing solid here. So if you can take us back maybe a couple years or whatever you think is right, but before you met your significant other, where were you? What were you doing? And that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I love that you said you're gonna get to know my story, because I feel like that is marriage. I'm getting to know my own story every day. Just
beautiful thing to say. Yeah,
to that every day, your story changes, because as you grow, your perception of like how it actually played out changes, especially for me, because I was a young bride. So I would say before I met my spouse, his name is Michael, I was in college, and I don't know how much you know about the SEC nation. Do you follow sports at all?
No, not at all. So fill us in.
Yeah. The South, for any of your football fans,
okay,
of your viewers, the SEC nation is a force to be reckoned with, for good and bad reasons. We are all in on the sports. So we have this event called at my college. It's called Mississippi State University, just a state school. Called Super Bulldog Weekend. Obviously, our mascot's a bulldog.
Sure.
And it's basically just a big party with a bunch of scrimmages. So like the baseball team scrimmages and the football team scrimmages, and you go and you watch, just trying to get you like excited for the athletic season ahead,
That's so exciting.
That's
really smart on that part, to build the momentum, right?
Yeah. Again, like you'll have to look into like the SEC nation, because the hype is already there. It was something that I had to learn, because sports were not huge in my home. And I'm first generation college. So when I went, I was like, wow, what is this?
It's big. Yeah, this is big.
It was a steep learning curve for me. So anyway,
was it very much a part of the college culture then? It was.
Yes. Everyone does it. It's not something that I stumbled upon. It is an entire event. Like my peers take their children for the weekend, and they'll go to this town called Starkville, Mississippi, and go. I mean, there's tents with like flea markets and local artists, and there's just all kind of things that you can do. It's an event. It's a huge. So anyways, that was going on that weekend when we met, and I was 19 years old. And we were just having a great weekend.
And so, okay, so tell us, so you got there with your friends, and just kind of walk us through how you met. So say, and then also tell us what you were wearing, because we must know that piece of it. But, did you go with your friends? Did you drive on your own? Was it at a restaurant, a football field, like that?
So a little bit further back, I've always had friends who are just a little bit older than me, about 3 to 5 years older than me. And
Yeah.
I had some friends who were like, yes, she's finally in college. We got to set her up with my brother.
Okay.
Like, okay, I'm out of high school. My parents had this rule, like when you're in high school, you date boys in high school. You don't date older guys.
Sure.
So I get to college. I'm finishing up my freshman year. It's about this time, 2009, about this time of year.
Okay.
And they're like, you got to meet my brother. He's great. He's a really great guy. He's looking for somebody to kind of like be in a relationship with. And it sounds silly at 19 to kind of be a relationship girl, but I never really was a casual dater.
Mhm.
Like I kind of jump in with both feet. And that's true about all areas of my life. That's not just relationships. If I'm in something, I am committed.
Got it.
So, and he was what we call a 5th year senior,
Okay.
where you do that 5th year to get your undergrad. And they're
Got
like, this
it.
is perfect. This is perfect. You got to meet him.
5th year senior in college, right?
And I
Got
was a freshman. Yes.
Okay. Good.
So, and I had already finished my freshman year. So they're like, this is perfect timing. Perfect. Okay. Whatever. So,
So what were you thinking as they were getting ready to set you up? Were you kind of like skeptical or?
no,
what-
I mean, I really liked this couple. And so I knew he was going to be a good enough guy. I wasn't worried,
Yeah.
I was like, I
Yeah.
was just like, yeah, I'll meet him, whatever.
Mhm.
So we've been out on a few dates, and Super Bulldog weekend rolls around and he's like, come to my apartment, because here, if you're a freshman, you have to live in the dorm. So I was
Oh.
living in a dorm,
Okay.
and he was like, you and your friends, y'all need to come out to the apartment. And I don't pregame. I don't know if that means anything to you. Pregaming
No,
is where you go and you drink cheap alcohol before you go to
Okay.
the bar and spend all your money.
Okay, got it. So you're primed.
Right. Yeah. You go ahead
Okay.
and like kind of drink a little bit, hang out,
Yeah.
before you go to the bar and you're spending all this money on alcohol.
Yeah. And so this is the guy that you started to date that's the brother of this couple that's related to this couple.
Yeah.
So you're just dating him and that's been going on for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
About 6 weeks or so. Not exclusive, just kind of seeing each other casually.
And his name is
His Brian.
Brian.
His
Okay.
Brian.
Got it.
Yeah. He is great. He's super nice guy, just having a good time. So me and my friends go to his apartment, and they're like, we're all gonna go eat Mexican. Like, let's go. Like,
Sure.
oh, wait, we're waiting on my friend to get here. He's coming up from Jackson, which is the capital of our state. It's about
Mhm.
2 hours drive. He was like, he's almost here. He's almost here. Just wait 10 more minutes. And we're like, okay, we don't care,
Yeah.
And so he's like, he's about to park. Everybody get in the car. So we're in this truck, and I feel like I sound like a country song. So we're sitting in his truck waiting for him to get in, and this guy just like jumps in. He's like, I made it. And we're like, yay. We all drive off. And that is Michael.
He's Michael. Oh my
He
goodness.
jumps in the car next to me, and he's like in a rush. He just throws his bag. He literally opens the apartment door, throws his duffel bag in the front door, locks it, shuts it, and jumps in the car with us to go to Mexican. And we're like,
Wow.
okay,
Nice to
I'm-
meet you.
yeah, I'm like thinking nothing of this. It's
Right.
me, him, and then my college roommate and one other girl.
Yeah.
And I think nothing of it.
Kind
It's
of
just-
like in the back seat of the car or something.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it. Got it.
So, in this college town, you can pretty much walk anywhere. So we just kind of like scrunched in to the
Yeah.
back seat. Just
So
went.
what were you wearing right at that time? Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
I so sororities I know are very different in my region than they are in California. So leading up to Super Bulldog weekend, all the different fraternity houses host a party each night of the week.
Mhm.
And you do different things to prepare for Super Bulldog weekend. One of those things is tie-dye your outfits.
Oh.
So I was wearing a a homemade tie-dyed t-shirt and
Whoa.
band. Like
Mhm.
I cut the bottom of a shirt off, not
Mhm.
like crop top, because crop tops weren't really in like they are now, but I just cut the bottom off and tie-dyed it, and it was tied around my head, and then
Mhm.
I was wearing a homemade tie-dyed t-shirt with blue jeans.
Fantastic.
That's what I was wearing.
Oh my goodness.
I'll never forget it, because I was really proud of that shirt.
Well,
Um,
yeah, you handmade
because
it.
it's a big, I don't know what colleges in California, how many people they have actually on campus, but you're talking about a fraternity house with about 400 people there, all tie-dyeing shirts, and like they might turn out, they might not, but like that's yours. You're
Right,
wearing it, you've
right.
committed, you know. Um,
What a cool tradition. I think
yeah,
that's awesome.
it's
Yeah.
really fun. It's really, really fun. Um,
And so there you are in your headband, your tie-dyed
yeah,
shirt
yeah,
in the
I'm like
back seat.
tie-dyed from head to toe. And
Right,
this older guy who's driven in from Jackson from work
right.
just jumped in the car next to me, and I'm like, oh, I feel really cool right now. Like, this is great.
Yes.
you know, we're all like buzzed a little bit, and I'm just like, okay,
Uh-huh.
yeah, this is great. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't think anything
But
about it.
right, you
Just,
were just right. You were there and you were
I was
dating.
there with Brian. I wasn't
Right.
even thinking about.
Exactly. And this guy Michael sitting next to you don't really think anything
I didn't
about
even
it,
know
right?
his name.
Oh,
Couldn't have
okay.
told you his name at that
Mm,
time. Like he's
right.
just one of Brian's friends who was staying with Brian for Super Bulldog weekend. Because as I said, Brian was a fifth year senior, so all of his friends have just gotten their like big boy jobs, and
Right.
so they're ready to come back to Starkville and have fun.
Sure.
They're not thinking about work.
Right. They're
Forget being a,
celebrating.
they're over it.
Mhm.
So
I love this. This is so
so
much
it's
fun. So then what happened? So did you get to the Mexican restaurant or?
oh yeah, we went to Mexican. We had a good time. We had margaritas, whatever. And then me and my friends kind of we spend the evening with them. And the whole evening I'm with Brian, and I'm sitting there just like this at Michael.
Really?
I
Now,
just instantly was like, what am I gonna do?
and
Uh,
so it was just this feeling. Was it
Oh,
describe to
instant.
us? Okay,
Oh,
just
yeah. I wouldn't say that it was instant for Michael.
yeah.
But just immediately I was like, what? Oh no. Like
Right.
I've been on dates, multiple dates with his friend. Like they
Yeah.
lived together before Michael moved back to Jackson, which is our home. Brian
Right.
and Michael had an apartment set up for the fall because Brian was graduating and he was going to move home, and they're friends. They're two single
Right.
guys. They're going to live together in Jackson, and I'm like, "Oh no.
What do I do now?
What do I do?"
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to stop dating Brian and not be off limits to Michael. Like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So,
That's a big one.
yeah, it was
And all of a
not
sudden,
my
just like,
finest, yeah, not my finest moment.
well, but it's true. I think it's
Yeah,
about being with integrity with ourselves and
sure.
recognizing that, because I mean, you can't fight your I mean,
Yeah.
the feelings are the feelings. And
Well, and I'm very much of like, once I know something, I can wait on all of y'all to know it, but I'm going to keep acting on it until
mhm,
y'all will catch up with me. But
right,
like, I already know we're doing this.
right.
So, and here we are 14 years later.
Oh my
So I'm like, yeah, no, we're doing.
goodness. So
It's just,
you knew in that moment then that this was a really important person to you. You just kind of
so
had a sense.
I was 19. So I think what I really knew is I want that guy.
Mhm.
I don't know what's going to happen for us, but like, this is the guy that I'm going for now. Um, so I go back to my dorm and I look at my roommate, Laura, who I'm still very close with. And I said, what do I do? Help me. Like, help me. We need to come up with a plan.
Right.
She said, well, we have to spend the rest of the weekend with them to figure out a plan. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's what we did.
Mhm.
We spent the whole rest of the weekend with them. And it's so funny because if you were to ask Michael how he got my number, he couldn't tell you. He doesn't know.
Yes.
Um,
How did he
But
get your number?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
So
We'll
we're
keep
at
it a
this
secret.
place. It's a tavern. And it's like a pool. It's like a pool hall. It's really
Mhm.
dark, and they have some music, but it's really like looks like a little cave. And Brian goes to the bar to get drinks. And because I have a fake ID, but it's not a great one, you know. So it goes enough to get me in, you know.
Right.
He goes to the bar to get drinks. And as soon as he walks away from the table, I said, Michael, I can't find my phone. Will you call it? He said, sure. What's your number?
Oh my God. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my-
See, I'm very driven. When I decide something, usually comes to be.
oh
So
my
that's how I got
goodness.
my number.
Well,
It's
that's a good tip for everyone, I think. Don't
yeah.
you think?
Yeah, I
That's
can't find my phone. You know, just make sure your phone is on silent first,
right.
because then if it's like in your lap or in your pocket, you can't like pretend to look for it. It's got to
Right.
actually be, you know, lost in the booth, you know.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, after that weekend, you know, finals were coming up because as I said, it was this time of year, and Brian was getting ready to graduate, interviewing for jobs. And I was like, you just need to focus on that. And like, you know, I'm really good friends with your brother and his fiance. Like, we'll see each other. It's no big deal, you know. And that was my way of like separating.
Easing
that.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
And then Michael never used my number.
Well, of course not, because he knows that you're with Brian, right?
So he didn't use my number. So I was like, okay. So what are we going to do now? So then I found a way to get invited on this beach trip.
Mhm.
We were all going to they were all going to the beach the end of May. So it's been about 6 weeks, and I'm like, okay, I don't have a reason to text him or call him or reach out. And so anyways, we go to the beach, and it's supposed to be like 16 of us, all couples. But not like all official couples. It was like 8 girls and 8 guys. And Brian is going, and Logan and Danielle, the couple that wanted me to meet Brian, who had already called and been like, look, it's not happening with Brian. I think he's great. I still think Brian is great. I love Brian.
Yeah.
But I'm like, look, don't put any more heat on it on this trip, because I've got my sights set on Michael.
And you told them that, the couple?
Yeah.
Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness.
No,
Wow.
we're very good friends.
Yeah. Now, how about Brian? Did you tell Brian that,
Oh no,
that you're not going out anymore? No,
No.
not just
we
the
just
couple.
kind of like, because finals were coming up,
Yeah.
and we just kind of separated. And you know,
Yeah.
those were my first finals because I was a freshman. They were his last finals because he was graduating. It was just
Right.
kind of just worked out timing wise. And there were no hard feelings. It was fine. It was fine. It wasn't like there were fireworks or anything like that. We were just casual, you know, no big.
Yeah. So this is a really good right there, just to kind of finesse your way through these things is not sometimes easy. So that's great that you did that.
It worked out timing wise, you know, because you know, at 19 you can do things that maybe aren't the smartest, but this one just happened to work out for me. So
that sounds pretty fun.
yeah. So we go on this beach trip, and it turns out that half of our group drops out. So then
oh my God.
they'd already paid their part, and I don't know, I don't even know what happened or why they couldn't go. But then it ended up being 3 couples of people who were dating and or engaged. Me, Michael, and Brian.
Oh my goodness.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It turned into a interesting dynamic.
So how did you navigate that?
I just am very like friendly. So, you know, I just kind of played it cool, and it was fine. So everybody was really cool and casual. It really wasn't. It could have been awkward, and I felt like it might be because I was riding in the back seat between the 2 of them because I'm the smallest, so I'm in the middle.
Oh my gosh.
So it could have been awkward, but it ended up being fine.
Yeah.
Until I did not know this. Michael told me after the fact that he asked Brian when we were down there, he said, "Are y'all like together? Like, what are y'all doing?" And he was,
Ah,
"No, we're not together. That kind of just like fizzled out, you know." He
yeah.
was like, "Well, I'm gonna go talk to her if you're fine with it." He was like, "Yeah, that's fine."
Well, that's
And
cool.
so- and
Yeah.
then after that beach trip, that was pretty much it for us. We were together after that. So
Isn't that something?
yeah, it just
That's
worked out.
it did. That's really something. No, just to have that, kind of a working out between the two guys too, just
Yeah,
on its own.
I'm really surprised that they did that because just I don't want to say men in general, but typically men, especially here in the deep south, are
Yeah,
not super communicative about
right.
their emotions or their boundaries or their needs or whatever.
Hmm.
But the fact that they had a little, I can just envision them in the beach. I mean, at the beach in the ocean, you know, just
Yeah.
kind of like fist bumping and not being like, "Yeah, man, like all you, you know."
Hmm.
Um, so
Right. And there was no jealousy playing out. There was no anything. It was very civilized.
not really. I mean, I think once we kind of coupled off, Brian went, we had a bunch of people down there that we knew, and he kind of like went off with them for the
Mhm.
last couple of days. But then it just became like four couples and Brian. So I think he just kind of like went off with them and
Right.
it was
Yeah.
fine.
No,
It
it's
was,
like it's where's the chemistry, right? Where's the
yeah,
the connection? So
yeah,
obviously the chemistry was with you and Michael. So
yeah.
that's
It's pretty crazy to me that it worked out that way. I don't know.
right, that's
Um,
fantastic. And then what happened after that?
um, so we just kind of casually were dating, because he didn't have a career at that time. He just had a job.
Okay.
And I'm just not, I don't know. I guess I was raised, how can I say this? Very fortunate. I was very fortunate that my parents were as successful as they were, um, without college educations. And I just think that's just true of that generation. I mean, my parents were born in the 50s. So I
Mhm.
think you have a lot of people who, oh, my mom would be so mad at me. My mother was born in the 60s.
Okay.
She would definitely correct me for that. Yeah.
There we go. Okay,
Um,
you corrected it.
but I think that was true of a lot of people could be more successful without college educations.
Mm.
Um, but you know, he just had a job, he didn't have a career, and he didn't really know what he wanted to do. And I was just like, well, I'm on the fast track to like a real like a career. So you
Right.
let me know when you're like make a
Have a
decision.
career.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You figure out what it is. I don't care what it is. I just want you to have a purpose, you know.
Right. Mhm.
Um, or just be intentional. I'm just
Mhm.
a very intentional person.
Right.
Um, and so we just kind of casually dated throughout the summer. And I don't recall how the conversation actually happened. I know what started the exclusive conversation about
Mhm.
becoming exclusive. Um, for Greek life, they have these things called rush parties. Rush is what you go through. It's a process to where they place you in whatever Greek house you end up
Right.
in. So during
Mhm.
the summer, they have these things called rush parties where you kind of like network and socialize and whatever to get to know these guys. Well, of course, the guys aren't going to have a party without the girls.
Okay.
So girls always go to these rush parties. And he came to pick me up from a rush party. And he was like, "I don't want you doing this anymore."
Hmm.
What do you mean? I
Right.
can't possibly understand. There's a million people I could have called to pick me up, but I chose you.
Right.
Not strategic at all. So he was like, "I just think we need to be exclusive. I think we need to stop seeing other people." And
Goodness. How did you feel about that?
mission accomplished.
Okay, then.
Yeah, no, yeah, I could have gotten a ride home with anyone,
Right.
you know, but
Absolutely.
I so
And that way he came and he saw what was going on. He could
yeah,
see all of the,
right, yeah, the fun, yeah.
right.
So, because he's just kind of old, he was older, he was just not in that stage of life anymore. And he's like, I don't want to go to a rush party, like
Right.
not his scene anymore. So,
Right. Right.
anyways, we
Mission
became
accomplished. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah,
That's
mission
great.
accomplished. I don't think he realizes even today just how chosen he is.
Wow. He obviously does.
um,
Right.
so, but
And
he's so
how, yeah.
relaxed, he's so relaxed and just like what will be and what's meant to be will be. And so, I don't live like that at all. It's one of the things that draws me to him actually is his ability to like kind of pour water on a situation and just calm things down where I kind of
Mhm.
live in a wound up state. It's kind of my
Mhm.
natural state actually.
Right.
Um, so he wasn't like in a hurry to become exclusive. He's not in a hurry to, he's just content and just has this zen about him. And
Mm.
so the way to fire up the zen is to call and ask for a ride home from a rush party.
Obviously.
Right. Yeah.
It worked like a
So,
champ. All of a
yeah,
sudden he's seeing his competition, right?
right. Like, wait a minute. This is not going to work well for me if I don't step in here.
That's
So,
right.
anyways, yes, he is very chosen. Um,
Interesting. That's a
so
great lesson. Okay, so then, so now you're exclusive, right? And
yeah,
then how any what happens next? Are there bumps in the road? Is there any side
not
trips? Or what happened
not
as
really
things
first
evolve?
because we were young,
Yeah,
he was
sure.
24 and I was 19. We're just kind of living the sweet life, really. I'm home for the summer and he was working nights. And so he would sleep while I was asleep until noon because,
Mhm.
why not? And then go to my parents have a pool. So we'd just be at the pool or whatever it is we were doing,
Oh,
the
nice.
hard life.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be happy in a relationship with those circumstances.
Right.
So,
That's so
it wasn't
cool.
until I went back to college when I was like, okay, well, I'm going into sophomore year, I'm getting all my ducks in a row for nursing school. Um, so like I had a good summer. And I
Hmm.
was like, I'm out, you know. He was like, well, what?
Did you do that intentionally or?
No, I mean, I just literally could not foresee. I just didn't have, I was just selfish. I mean, I
Oh,
mean,
no, no. You were going to go back to school, so you didn't want to be in a relationship when you
I
went
didn't,
back to school.
no, I didn't want to be in a relationship with someone who had a job and not a career.
Got it. I hear that. Okay,
And so
so that was still
I
the
was,
case. Got it.
I'm not like, going this intentional route. And like,
Mhm.
I love that you're content and I love that you're zen and it calms me down. And I appreciate that. But like, this can't go anywhere, you know? Um,
Good for you. That's fantastic.
I don't know.
Not so good?
I mean, it went really well. It worked. I don't think I realized what I was doing. I think I was being selfish. That's what I mean. I mean, I genuinely feel like I was being a self-centered 20-year-old where I was like, this isn't going to take me where I envision myself in 5 years, which what vision at 20, just in hindsight, you think your life at
Right,
20 and what, and you don't have a clue, you know.
right, right.
Um, so I think I was just being, you know, I want what I want. And
Yeah, and you were going based on what was real for you in that moment. I
right,
mean, there's no question about that. That was real then. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
And so I don't remember how long passed after that conversation where he had registered to go back to school.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I said, I don't want you to do this just because I said something. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta want it, you know. And he grew up in the funeral business.
Okay.
And so to do that, there's actually a lot of school that goes along with that. People just, it's not a common career choice. So people don't
Right.
know that it takes a certain accreditation in schooling and a 2-part national boards to be licensed to do it. Um,
Oh.
and
Mm.
so he signed up to go back to school to do that. And I said, I don't want you to do this just because of something that I said. Like, if you don't want to do that, don't do that. Take some more time to figure it out.
Mhm.
It's okay. I just know what I want, you know.
Mhm.
And he said, no, I've been thinking about it for a long time. I think I just needed a push.
Hmm.
And I didn't know it then, but that is, you know, I kind of describe my natural state as wound up.
Mhm.
That is Michael's natural state, is just pondering and percolating until
Yes.
somebody gives them a push.
Got it.
And so I get unintentionally
Right.
gave him the push.
Well, and also he wanted to be with you. I mean, that's
Yeah,
very
sure.
clear. So
Yeah,
that, it wasn't just, you, a
yeah,
random person giving him a push. Oh no,
sure.
this
Yeah,
is the one who has captivated his attention,
yeah,
who, really, I mean, he will even speak up and say, I think we should be, just
yeah,
seeing each other. These things that, because of his high level of interest in you,
yeah,
so I think there's, that is part of his internal process too,
yeah.
saying, I'm going to lose her if I don't do something. And this is what I've been thinking. So let me
That
move
was
forward.
already on the fence about this, and I just needed something to make it feel like the right, because
Mhm.
he would be paying for all that out of pocket. I mean, that was just, it's a big commitment, you know.
Mhm.
And once you tell the parents you're going to go into the family business, there's no coming out of that. It's
Right.
just
You can't
so,
go back.
yeah.
Oh my
So,
God. They must have been thrilled though, right? Do you think? Or were they?
I think the funeral business is not easy to get into. Can take a toll. And so
Yeah.
I think they were just happy to see him ready to take it on, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
And my relationship with them really didn't blossom at that time. Not for any reason other than I just didn't spend any time with them. I mean,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
they live about 40 minutes from Madison. And so we went out there some, but it's kind of in the middle of I don't know if you've ever heard of an area. It's the Delta. It's just like a
Mhm.
big mass farm area. And so there
Mhm.
wasn't a ton for us to do out there. So, you know,
Oh yeah. Plus you were going to school,
right.
so you're
Yeah.
right. You're busy. You're
Yeah.
busy.
Then we just dated. I mean, long distance. He stayed here because the funeral program was here. And Starkville was like 2.5, 2 hours away.
Mhm.
Um, and he would come up on weekends and I would come home on weekends, and yeah, it was good. So dating was great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it was actually really easy to be long distance. I don't know why that is, but maybe because we were both so busy with school and
Right.
studying, you know.
And maybe you had that just inner feeling, that inner commitment that you just knew, that it
Uh,
wasn't a
I don't know.
stretch.
I don't know about that. I wish I was that confident, but I don't think I was at that age.
What
But it
types
was,
of things did you caught your attention to be concerned about, or was there, as you were just kind of going through that time period?
I think, you're just growing up so much and you're just trying to make all these decisions and nothing feels permanent, but everything feels like it's going to last forever at the same time, which
Mhm.
sounds so silly, but I do feel like those emotions can live in the same space where you're making all these adult decisions and you're living like an adult, or I mean, I certainly was.
Sure.
Um, I was financially independent. My parents did pay for my car insurance. But other than that, I mean,
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
so
No, I mean, that's great that you were that independent. So that's
yeah, I mean, so
fantastic.
you're living like an adult and you're
Right.
trying to make adult decisions, but like you're still young enough that nothing feels permanent yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think that when you can't see the person that you love every day, those insecurities
Sure.
creep in, and you watch enough TNT or ABC or whatever, and you see the grieving girl hanging all over the funeral director, and you're like, let me just call him real quick, see what he's doing. you know,
Right.
so, I think that's normal though for
I
the
think
age.
it's completely normal for any age. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter,
yeah,
forever. It's
yeah,
just you care,
yeah.
and with
So, but
distance,
it
not, yeah.
it was a. I mean, I think too. Both our families are here, so it's not like he could have really gotten away with much.
Oh, I'm
Every
sure.
year.
Plus, it doesn't sound like he wanted to. Do you know what
No,
I'm
no,
saying? It sounds like he's kind of the one that's kind of going, well, he wanted to keep you, he
yeah.
didn't want to let you go. So he wanted to make
Um,
sure he was doing all the right things to
right.
do that.
So we dated all of sophomore and all of junior year,
Yeah.
and then right before he graduated, because it's a 2-year funeral program.
Mm-hmm.
Right before he graduated, we got into some childish fight. I don't know what, I couldn't even tell you what it was about.
Yeah.
And we broke up, and we didn't speak for like almost 8 weeks. Not a
Oh,
text message, not a phone call, because I was in Starkville, and I was like, I'm not going home. I'm not going home and running into him. I'm
right.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Until I had to move home for summer.
Oh my goodness.
And he was about to graduate, and he had just passed his boards, and we reconciled.
Oh
And to
my,
be honest, like the specifics of that are kind of a blur to me. And I don't know if I was just beside myself and so I blocked it out,
yeah.
or I don't know. I think the brain chooses not to remember things sometimes.
Right, right.
Um,
But there was a big kind of a blow up and then,
and it was one of those like, well, maybe we should break up. And okay, well, maybe we should break up. And then we hang up on each other.
right,
And then no one calls back.
right.
And it
And so
like
you,
goes on and on and on.
right,
Like
right.
that was literally how it ended. And I'm like, I'm not calling him back. And he's probably thinking the same thing, you
Yeah.
know. But anyways, that lasted about 6 to 8 weeks. And then we got back together about a week before his graduation.
How
So
did you get back together? I mean, did he call you? Did you call him? Did you run into each other?
he had some of my stuff at his apartment in
Right.
Jackson.
Okay.
And I had been living my junior year, I had been living in a sorority house.
Yeah.
And so for senior year, I was moving back into an apartment. And so there were pieces of furniture that I was like, I know you've been using them, but like, I got to have them back because I'm moving into an apartment that is unfurnished.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Laura, who I met Michael with, so I was like, I need to come get my furniture. And he was there. I didn't expect him to be there. He knew when I was coming.
Yeah.
And I didn't need him to be there. I had a key.
Right.
But he was there, and I don't really know. I really don't know how we got back together. We just did.
Yeah.
And
It's probably just seeing each other and just kind of there it goes. Yeah.
why break up.
Right. Exactly. It's the real reason.
So
No,
yeah.
that's wonderful. Again, I mean, this is helpful for people that maybe, have broken up and they want to, and it's not really over, it's just
Yeah.
to be over, but it just wasn't really over at all.
No.
So you continue.
Then we get back together. We spend the summer together. I moved back to college in August. And in September, I found out I was pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
So that is where the real learning begins for us.
Yes. Yeah. So you're in your
But yeah, so we got engaged.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Got married, and in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
We had what we Southerners affectionately call a shotgun wedding.
Okay.
So we
Yes.
took care of that, and it was great. It was the perfect day. I mean, it was
Gosh.
everything that I wanted at my wedding found a way to be. I mean,
Wow.
it,
Isn't that's beautiful. And what were the things that were important to you to have at your wedding? Just what was,
so I'm Catholic.
Mhm,
So I wanted to get married in the Catholic church that my parents got married in.
mhm.
Um, and we did. And actually, the priest who married my parents was able to marry us.
Oh, how
So I
fantastic.
that
That's cool.
I really wanted to um there were certain people that I wanted there that were
Mhm,
able to be there.
mhm.
Um the flowers that I wanted were somehow in season in January and not astronomical. I mean,
Oh,
it
wow.
just it just worked out.
Every
Everything just worked out beautifully.
mm,
And it's amazing to me. I don't know how, when I look at weddings now, I think, how in the world did we get that done? But
right?
we did, and it was
Plus,
everything we wanted it to
in
be.
in your seniors, year of school too, being
Yeah,
in school
yeah.
for both.
That was
Wow.
and you know, that was challenging for sure. But
Yeah.
everyone was able to be there. All of his people were able to be there.
Mm.
It worked out perfectly.
It was the right thing at the right time. Yep.
Yeah, lined up. The stars just aligned for us.
That's
I don't
right.
know how that happened, but it did.
It
So
did.
yeah,
Yeah, and just having you know, really being forthright and right. Just do it. I hear you.
and
Yes.
I just loved Michael so much.
Mm,
I just remember my mom asking me once. She was like, "Aren't you scared?"
mhm,
And I laugh a little at myself at my answer because after being married, we just had our 10-year anniversary in January, and I remember her asking me if I was scared, and I said, "Of what?" And I think, "Oh, honey, of everything, of everything, of
Yeah.
everything about to happen for you and to you and around you." Like, it's a testament to what a wonderful mother I have that she did not say a word.
Right.
She could
Yep.
see that I was in love and that I was keeping the faith, I guess. And
Mhm.
like, there's nothing I can say right now that is going to benefit her. So I'm going to just say, okay.
Mhm. And provide support,
So
right. Encouragement, support, everything like
yeah,
that. Wow.
that's right. So then we lived with my parents
Mhm,
and we had her in April.
mhm.
And um we stayed there till July of that same year. This is
Great. Oh, nice.
2012. Yeah, and then we
Mhm.
bought our first home. Which
Yeah.
in 2012 the market was perfect. So
Right,
we
right.
we really hit a sweet spot there.
That's
Um
fantastic. Oh, isn't
and
that great? Yeah.
yeah, and then I took a year to graduate with my undergrad. So my dad wanted me to have a bachelor's degree before I went to nursing school. And so that's why I was still in Starkville for junior and senior year, because instead of in a nursing school. Um,
Mm,
and so because all the nursing schools are in Jackson, which is our capital.
got it.
And I could have lived at home and gone to those. But he was
Right.
like, I'll get your bachelor's first and then you can go to nursing school. So I did her whole first year of life. I finished my undergraduate degree and I graduated from Mississippi State in 2013, right after her first birthday. And then
Wow.
I took the year off and spent the year with her. And that was awesome.
That's
You
really
know,
blissful. Yes,
yeah.
total bliss. Oh.
Um, and then I went to nursing school. I started nursing school in 2014.
Mhm,
Um, but another great little curveball for you.
mhm,
Um, in May of 2014, I was set to start nursing school in August of
mhm,
2014.
mhm.
In May of 2014, Michael calls me from work and he's hysterical. And I'm like, whoa, let's take a breath, slow down. He's like, I just woke up on the floor. My face is bleeding. I don't know how long I've been unconscious. Um, My head is pounding. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, okay, everybody just stop. Like, go get some water, sit down, and I will be there in just a minute.
And he was at work when he called you?
Yes,
Okay.
it was a Sunday.
Oh,
Obviously
I see.
it was, yeah. So it was Mother's Day, actually. And he was at work, and I went up there to get him,
Yeah,
and I was like, you can't drive. I'll just come get you.
yeah,
Call your manager and get somebody else up there because you gotta go home.
right.
And so when I get up there to get him, he looks like he's just been punched in the face. I mean, he looks like he's been in like a brawl.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm like, okay, get in the car. Like, we're gonna go home.
Right.
And I took him to the emergency room. He's like, where are we going? I said, we're going to the emergency room. He said,
That's
no.
right.
I said, oh yes, we are. People don't just pass out for no reason.
Right.
Like, we're going to the emergency room. So we get there, and they just were not taking us seriously. I mean, which I don't know. I don't know that they should have. I mean,
Well,
I'm
yes, they should have.
23 years old. I'm clueless, but I threw a fit in there because they were like, we've run his blood work. His EKG is normal. He's not dehydrated. You know, he's fine. You know, we're good. I said, look, we're not leaving here until y'all run every single test in here, because he's been having terrible migraines. He had been progressively just getting worse and worse migraines, where I had an injection that I would give him in his neck for certain type of migraines. And I was like, something is wrong. We have been doing all kinds of things. We've been seeing our primary care provider every 3 months. We're doing all the things to get these migraines under control. Something is wrong. Now he's passing out.
Right.
Like, we're doing, we are not leaving. We're doing something. And
Good for you. Oh my goodness.
I was just terrified. I mean, I just went into like mama bear mode. You know,
Right.
I just
Absolutely.
and we're sitting there and we're waiting, and all of a sudden he looks at me and he says, I'm getting this really weird feeling like I got the last time right before I woke up on the floor. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
what is happening? And he's doing like this, and his arms just fall, and he's just out.
Oh my goodness.
And he was flatlining. His heart was stopping.
Oh my goodness.
So
did they have him on things as this happened?
yeah. So when you're in the ER, they have you on telemetry, which is just like continuous. It's not like a one EKG reading. It's a continuous heart monitor.
Okay.
And so they had him on a normal saline IV because they were like, he might be dehydrated. So we'll just give him some fluids and we'll just monitor him.
Mhm.
And so he was on an IV, continuous telemetry. So like when he starts to flatline,
Right.
I just panicked. I was like looking around me, and I was like, we're in this ER little cubicle by ourselves. Like, I gotta do something.
Right.
And they probably thought I was insane because I was like,
where was the nurse? The nurse was down the hall, or where?
well, when they flatline like that, the whole team comes in. Like,
Okay.
they don't, it's not just like one person. But it's amazing to me because at the end of it, when he finally came around, when the cardiologist was reviewing it, they call it a pause because his heart stopped and restarted itself. So they call it a pause.
Okay.
His first pause was 32 seconds.
Okay.
And there's no way that was only 32 seconds. He said it's amazing how fast your mind will process a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was like about to give him CPR when somebody walks in because I panicked. I just went there. I don't know why I went there.
Understandable. My God.
I hadn't even gone to nursing school yet. I don't know why. It had to be, I don't know if you're a believer, and it doesn't matter, but it had to be divine intervention because
I am a believer. Mm-hmm.
I had no reason to do that. I had no training. I had no life experience. I just panicked.
And so you did give him CPR then?
Well, I just only did one compression before they came in. Which is the fact that I was like literally thinking they weren't coming.
Right.
But he was only, and they were in there when they were working on him when he came to. So that 32 seconds, they didn't take long.
Got
It
it.
just, in my mind, I was like, no,
Mhm.
like I have to
Right.
do something.
Right.
I mean, they're a good medical team. This is the hospital system that I work for. I am not upset with them. It's just amazing to me that where my brain went that quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So anyways, the
Thank
cardiologist,
God you stayed, right? That you
uh,
didn't leave like they wanted you to.
yeah. So anyways, he had actually just gotten back from getting an MRI, and we were waiting on the MRI results when this happened. And the cardiologist was looking at it. He was like, he's had a 32-second pause, and they're all talking and going round and round. And I was like, so what does this mean? He said, it means you're not going home. I was like, yeah, okay.
Good.
So he did that 4 more times in the ER. And they had to put in a temporary pacemaker because he was exhausting all of his body's electrolytes, and it's hard on your body when your heart stops for that long.
Mhm.
Um, and before that day was over, we had been diagnosed with sinus node dysfunction, and which basically just means the electricity in his heart just turns off like a light switch for no reason.
Wow.
He has no defect. Everything is there. There's no damage, no heart attack, no nothing. A
Right.
lot of times when this happens, there's like a birth defect that we don't know till they get
Right.
older. He doesn't have any of that. And just for a frame of reference, we left with a pacemaker, like he has a permanent pacemaker.
Mhm.
But grounds for a pacemaker is a 6-second pause, just one 6-second pause is grounds for a pacemaker.
Okay.
He had 4 pauses in one 12-hour period between 26 and 32 seconds.
Okay
So
then.
I
Wow.
did not realize just how big those were until he said, and he must have thought I was crazy. I think I was in a little bit of shock when the cardiologist said, he's going to have to get a pacemaker. And I said, are you sure? Because like to me, in my mind, that's permanent. Like, is there nothing? I was
Right.
just trying to take it all in,
Yeah.
He,
No, it's a lot. Oh my
oh yeah,
goodness.
I'm sure. He said, I put in a pacemaker for a 6-second pause. And I said, oh, we're getting a pacemaker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that was right around year 2 of marriage.
Oh my goodness.
Um,
Wow.
so after that, he decides he can't work in the funeral business anymore. I think he was suffering from PTSD, to be honest.
Yeah.
Facing your own death or feeling like you were. I mean, what if he'd been driving down the road when that happened?
Oh my goodness.
I mean,
Yeah.
he could have hit a tree and we could have just never known what happened.
Exactly.
So anyways, he then leaves and takes a whole new career the same exact month that I start nursing school.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. We don't like to do things the easy way.
No.
No.
Well, but you don't learn until you've been there, right?
Yeah,
And he didn't know that about the, being in the business until he'd been
absolutely.
there, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's got to be a fit, right? With anything, is it a
It
fit? And
Well, and I think he couldn't go back to just death because he had just experienced, I mean, when you come to and the doctors are telling you that your heart stopped, I think it just affects you in such a way.
I would think so.
So
Yeah. No, that's a huge, huge thing. Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So
And
that was quite the learning curve there. The communication between the two of us, the way we approach things is so different. He's very much like, let go and let God, and what will be will be. I'm like, God gave me a brain and free will, so like I'm gonna do all of these things to like
right.
make my life not uncomfortable, because I don't like to sit in my discomfort. I like to constantly be working through it so that I can get out of it. And that is a good thing and a bad thing. I mean, I've been doing therapy since I had our oldest child.
Right.
And sometimes you need to feel the discomfort to like process it and move past it. I don't like to do that. So
What do you like to do? Do you like to just
I
move
like
on?
to figure out why I'm uncomfortable
Hmm.
and remove that.
Right.
And not deal with that. Like, oh, this makes me uncomfortable. I
Hmm.
can now take this little thing, put it in a box and say, I don't like this. I'm
Right.
not dealing with this. Here's
Mhm.
my solution to avoid this in the future. And now I'm putting you over here.
Got it.
That
Yes.
doesn't always work.
It's called you have a choice, right? You have a choice of what you want in your life or you don't.
Yeah.
And so you exercise that choice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, when you don't fully work through those things that are causing you discomfort, because what was causing me discomfort was my husband's health condition. And
Sure.
so I'm not talking through that with him and processing that with him. I mean, that entire situation could have been the end of our relationship.
Sure.
So what was making me uncomfortable and taking away what I feel was providing me safety, because he thinks he's healed and he's going to go do this and he's going to do that. And he doesn't have anything wrong with him anymore. And I'm like, no. The pacemaker keeps your heart from stopping. It does not mean you're cured. Like you still have this heart condition.
Right.
And there was no reason for it, which was
Right.
really hard for me at that age.
Right. That's a real puzzlement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been, yeah. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
And
So the
so,
way that problem solve and communicate on those issues really caused a lot of this. And that is where I feel like I learned that lasting relationships really aren't about love. And up until that point, I had not experienced that.
so tell us a little bit about that. Lasting relationships really aren't about love. So then what are
They're
they
not.
about? What do you think they are about through your learning?
I think that they are about commitment.
Okay.
I mean, because no one
It
is,
makes sense. No, I'm listening. I hear you.
I
Mhm.
mean, no one is obligated to stay the same.
Mhm.
Things are going to happen in your life that change you. I mean, none of that could have happened to us. And the fact that we got married 6 weeks before I turned 22, I'm
Mhm.
not going to be that same person.
Right.
It's not possible, and you wouldn't want me to be.
Exactly. You're growing just like a
Right,
plant grows, right?
right.
Yeah.
Like, my brain's not even fully developed at that age. So,
Exactly.
the idea that I'm going to continue to be the person that you married is, I hate hearing that. You're like, you're just not the person I married anymore. Well, of course not. Of course not. You know,
Right.
they're not going to be. So
Mhm.
you walk into that relationship, I know it says in the vows, like, I promise to love you until death do us part. But really, you're just promising to continue to love whoever you become.
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
I just think it's important to know that people are going to constantly evolve, and it's your job to be a part of their evolution. I mean,
Mhm.
you can't stop them.
No. Mm-mm. You
No, I
wouldn't
mean,
want to. If you truly love someone, you don't want to stop their growth, right?
yeah, and you're not going to stop growing.
No, of course not.
So you're supposed to try to grow with that person.
Right.
But things like what we went through make it very hard, because you're dealing with, and I think that's why a lot of people, when they lose a child, the way they grieve that separates them. You
Mhm.
any big trauma in a relationship, if you don't process the same way, 'cause
Mhm.
I'm a very verbal processor.
Mhm. Mhm.
He is a very internal. Everything is internal for him.
Mhm.
And I can say things like, don't you have an opinion on this?
And what's he say?
Not yet. I'm like,
Mhm.
I have like 5 opinions in the time it took you to say not yet. you know.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah, no, I
so,
hear you.
but
How did you
I
navigate that? How did you, to make it through. Because this is, I mean, this is really having something from the universe served up to you and saying, okay,
Deal-
how are-
yeah. Therapy.
okay.
A lot of therapy. I mean, I think that if you don't process your grief or your trauma or your stress in the same way that your significant other does,
Mm-hmm.
trying to force that person to process the way that you do
Mm-hmm.
adds to the trauma, which is what I did.
Okay, I get it. Right.
I definitely did that. I definitely was like, don't you understand what happened? Don't you remember this? Don't you remember that? When in fact, like I just didn't have, I was 23 years old. Like I just did not have the maturity level to understand that in fact, he didn't remember that.
Right.
You know, he was on Versed. He doesn't remember his experience in the ICU at all. How
could he? Right.
And it's not fair to me to try to, it's not fair of me, I should say, to try to force him or expect him to remember things or be disappointed in him for not having the same experience that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Like my feelings are my responsibility. And that is just not a skill that I had at 23 years old.
Of
I just
course not.
I
Right.
didn't. And it's a skill that I sometimes don't have at 32 years old.
Okay.
I mean, there are a
we-
lot of conversations where I have to go, I got to stop talking to you about this right now because I don't have the language to ask for what I need. I know that I'm needing something and I feel you pulling back and I feel myself pushing harder to try to fill a need, but I can't name that need. So I need to pause this.
That in itself is a maturity, right? To be able to know that and to be able to just, stop in that moment to see what is the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't always have that.
Okay.
In particular when I'm angry,
Aren't we? I mean,
yeah.
that you're not alone. Let me see. I can, you're
anger
not alone.
get me every time. I'm most definitely a hothead. I'm definitely the hothead in this relationship, to say the least. But you just have to respect everyone's perspective and be willing to say your experience and my experience can live in the same space. And that is not possible to do without therapy. Or, okay, I have not found it to be possible.
Yes. No, that I love the way you put that each of your experiences can live in the same space with the proper support is what I think I'm hearing you say through therapy. Yeah. But it's about learning how to have people that are experiencing things differently and to have that understood in some way.
Yes.
Boy, that's huge. That is huge.
It's hard to learn also. I mean, it took about 2 years to learn that. And I don't know if it's because I am so stubborn and I want him to see that I'm hurting. And he's trying to tell me I don't see it that way. What I hear is him invalidating. But what he's telling me is I can't empathize because I don't remember it.
Oh.
I hear you and I sympathize, but I can't get there because he doesn't remember it that way.
Right.
And so finding another way to connect on something like that is hard.
Yeah.
So that's why I say you have to have someone who is neutral to go to say all of those things that you want to say to that person that you have no business saying. Because I just feel like the minute you get it out, you're like, wow, that was really mean. But then it's too late. Then you've said it to the person you love. But if you say it in therapy, in your safe space, I mean, 8 out of 10 times I say something and I immediately look at my therapist and I say, Martha, I want to retract that statement so bad. Like, oh, I'm so glad I said that to you. Because the minute you say it out loud, you hear because it's human nature to be focused on your experience and like what the emotion that you're sitting in. It's not until you're demanding someone else to put their experience aside and focus on you that you hear where you're like, oh, yeah, sorry. you know?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, and I don't have, I certainly don't want to I don't want to put it out there that I got it mastered because I don't.
Oh, no. It's a learning process. I mean, it's a continual learning process, I think, for our whole lives.
Yeah.
Do we ever get it? Do we ever fully, we never know what the next experience is going to be and how that's going to set off, how we feel about it. And I think it's important not to invalidate our feelings, though, which is the beauty of going to a therapist.
Yeah.
You can at least say how you feel without, having it traumatize someone else, by.
Or you just carry those consequences forever. Yeah, you carry those consequences by that hurt that you can't take away that you've inflicted on that person, and that's why I say I just don't feel like it's about love as much as it is about commitment, because you're not going to have sparks forever. Your brain does not allow for that. Like it's just not a reality.
Right.
So if you can find a way to look at a person and say, they have these, you look at a person and you think the spine of this person is, for me, their faith, their family orientation. Like I say that in a sense of like, he's a hands-on dad. That was important to me. It's not important to everyone.
Right.
The fact that this is going to sound so silly, that he is okay with me wanting a job.
Yes.
That like this day and age, we are not in a position for me to not work at all. But there's been times where I could have been part-time or no time. And I'm like, oh, I'm headed out the door to my job. You
want to work. Right. You want to work. And have a career. I get it.
Those are the spine. Everything else are just, they're very fluid.
Right.
Everything outside of that is fluid. So you have to look at that person and go, here's the spine of this person. These are the things that I am looking for. This many of these things line up. I've chosen to commit to this person. And right now I want to run away. But the reality is, what am I running to?
Right.
Right. So
no, I'm really hearing that. I mean, what, after the sparks, calm down and all of that. And the wedding has happened and and then real life comes in with, situation like you just described. I mean, that is as real as life gets, right?
Yeah.
And boy, then to have those different communicating styles or the different ways of experiencing, and then to be able to hold on to that framework that you just described can be everything, right? And giving you that it gives you your why of why I'm there.
Because or anyone who says there's never a time that they questioned why they were in a relationship is just not being honest with themselves. Because the person that you are the most committed to is the person who's going to let you down the biggest, because you have them on the highest pedestal. You expect more of them than you do anyone else.
Right.
You expect them to remember how you want the dishwasher loaded. You expect them to remember that the dry cleaning is going to get picked up. You expect them to remember and be everything for you because you're everything for them.
Sure.
So they're going to let you down.
Right.
So the way to plant your feet in cement is to, number one, visualize it that way, because that's what I have to do. Because I'm a hothead and I would love to storm out, but it doesn't do anything for you to do that. It's not going to get you where you want to go.
Right.
So to visualize yourself staying and to remind yourself why you are staying.
Mhm.
Why you are staying is not always going to be because you are in love with someone. Just not.
Mhm. Right.
And so you just have to find the person that is worth you growing with and being with,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So,
Right. So right. And through these experiences, you do grow, right? I mean,
oh,
you become
this,
incredibly stronger, I would imagine, on the inside, and as you weather these kind of storms in a way together, I would
yeah.
think that probably ultimately it brings you closer together, even though it may be more, I mean, it's more challenging for sure.
Yeah, it can push you apart at first, but once you overcome it,
Mm-hmm.
you realize you're like, wow, we made it. Like we didn't see it the same way, we didn't live it the same way, we didn't process it the same, but we're here. We're on the other side of it, and we're both on the other side of it, right here
Mm-hmm.
together, where we were when we started. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so
No. What a oh my goodness. Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
it's
What
crazy.
it is crazy. And it's crazy about commitment, and love, but commitment really that goes beyond love, that just is kind of like this overarching, a different type of love almost.
Oh, no doubt. To me, commitment, like if I could just get my husband on board with just telling me at the end of every phone call, I'm
Mhm,
committed to you instead of I love you.
mhm. How would
I think
that make you?
it's like the most romantic thing you can say. I'm like,
Yeah,
everyone, you're like, okay, love you, bye. And you're like, no, I don't want you to say that.
right. Hey, you're committed to me.
Yeah, I just want you to say that. I want to hear that every day,
Seriously,
you know,
seriously.
or I'm on your team.
Yeah.
Even that is just
Yeah.
speaks bigger volumes.
It does, doesn't it? Isn't that
So
interesting? Yeah, that's really big. That's really big. Yeah, to really, you're there for each other, you have each other's back, you're on your team, you're
yeah,
committed to each other, you know, that kind of, which is love in action in a way. But
absolutely.
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think the
so
world has love defined differently than how we actually experience it. And so
mhm,
I think that if we could reframe it to it would be more beneficial for couples going forward.
mhm.
Um, but I don't know that that's possible to get it to be reframed that way. I don't know.
Well, maybe you can write a book about it, at some time. Best practices. No, but seriously, but I mean, your thoughts, you've lived a really profound story. And that's where I'm just really, I really heard you when you said, there are times when I just want to storm out. I'm a hothead, right? And that's
Yeah,
kind of my nature.
yeah,
I'm gonna go make something happen. And that you stay and you look at this framework and you look at your reasons for staying. And so I think, I mean, that is just a really huge lesson for people that are listening to this and for people in the world to be able to hold that space. You're holding the tension that's going on and being able to be resilient enough to withstand it.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not easy, especially when our kids got to school age. Um,
Mm,
I mean, that was hard, but then when they started going to school, it's like you don't feel like you have any time for yourself,
mm-hmm,
and everybody needs something all the time,
right,
and it can feel like no one's on your team. You're like,
right,
everyone that's supposed to be on my team just wants me to give them the ball. Now, who's giving me the ball?
right, right.
uh,
Wait a second.
it
Yeah.
could be. I think that's the season that we're in now, and you couple that with the pandemic. Um, that was a whole.
Oh my
You
goodness.
can't go anywhere to get any U time.
Right,
So, and you can't send your kids anywhere to get any couple time. So,
right.
so what do you do?
What do you do?
Well, especially for us, because he did actually go back to the funeral home business. It is his
Oh,
calling. It is home is. I think he was just suffering from a trauma.
right.
That was a coping mechanism for him. But he stayed out of it 2 years and then went back. So he's been back for about 5 years now.
Mhm.
Years. And I we don't go home like ever. We don't get sent home when the world shuts down. We're at work.
Oh,
You know?
no, you're
So,
right there on the front line, both of you, right?
right.
Especially you, this with the pandemic. Oh my goodness. So he's been in the
Yeah,
funeral business for the last 2 years, and you've
correct.
been in the hospitals taking care of people.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's been
What's helped you get through this time? Seriously, you know, what do you hold on to?
patients who say thank you.
Wow.
I know that sounds crazy,
Wow.
but just
No.
when you have a patient who will just say thank you, and it's not the will you refill my water, thank you. It's the at the end of your time with them, they literally just look at you and say, thanks for being with me today. And you're like, I worked really hard to be here with you, and I'm so glad that you felt it. You know,
Mhm. Yes, I do know.
it's hard because you want to respect the patients who can't feel it because this is a heavy time for people. And
Mhm.
sometimes people just aren't in a place where they can receive your love, patients. I mean,
Mhm.
because as a nurse, like that, I feel like that is my role for them is to
Mhm.
remind them that they're safe and collect data and assess them and
Mhm.
make them feel loved and,
Mhm.
and safe.
Right.
Um, Sometimes they're not in a place to receive that because they're taken up by what their experience is, you know.
Right. Right.
So when you have a patient who that you can reach, who is
Mhm.
like, you calmed me today,
Um,
like
mhm.
it's those moments, that, and I hate it. They're few and far between, even with the
Feed your
pandemic.
soul. Yeah, that feed your soul in a way
Yeah,
that, yeah, it comes.
yeah,
That,
it kind of will bring it back to you where you're like, whew, okay, I can last another 2 weeks now,
oh, that's
Like,
beautiful.
it's just, when you can make someone stop crying
Right.
because
Mhm.
something you said comforted them, you're
Mhm.
like, "Okay, I got a win today,"
That's,
and I'll take it.
yeah.
So, you know
Yeah, no, what's kind of speaking to me through what you're saying is obviously these patients face, at some level, they face, their own mortality and death in there.
yeah.
And so you're holding that space for them,
Yeah, it's no secret that the South has a very, poor we are not healthy people for the most
Mhm.
part.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of obesity and a lot of diabetes, and those are the highest risk people in this pandemic. Thankfully, obviously, everything is getting much better. But initially,
Right.
you take a 40-year-old African American female who's diabetic and you diagnose her with COVID, and her whole world comes crashing down. She
Oh,
is officially terrified,
oh
you
my
know.
goodness. Yeah.
Um, so, being there for her with that, and after that,
Yeah.
you know, forming a relationship with her.
Yeah.
There are some who are just getting by. They're numb to it. But there are
Mm.
people who they feel comforted by human connection. So they are grasping at me to
Sweet.
feel something,
Mhm.
other than just sheer terror. I mean, and
Right.
rightfully so. I mean, especially with the original, you know,
Right.
it's a lot of fear
Started happening. So you
before.
are really, you're holding out all those patients at work and then holding your family at home and your relationship and really trying to keep everything together, which
Yeah,
is
and then
a lot.
again, my husband has a very different approach. So the balancing this of he's worrying about our then 3-year-old not going to school. What kind of impact is that going to have on her? Because she's at such a crucial developmental age where
Right.
socialization is crucial for her at 3.
Right.
And we opted to keep our then third grader and our 3-year-old at home with a
Mhm.
nanny so that we could control, because we don't get sent home. If our child gets sent home and if you don't have time off, like, you don't get to go home.
Right.
And so for us, with them being in 2 different schools, they could be exposed to 10 different times. It's not like they're going to get sent home together. So
Right.
for us, it was a health decision, but also just the reality of our jobs. So
Right.
it's easier for us to just keep them home with a nanny. And our 3rd grader did virtual school, and our 3-year-old just stayed home.
Right.
You know, so the kind of the butting heads of him feeling like our youngest was going to suffer, and it was going to be harder for her to overcome, because at 3 she's developing those things. It's not like a 3rd grader, well, she'll go back to no masks because she remembers a life with no masks, so she'll go back to normal.
Right.
Our youngest had never had a normal.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, just that of like, well, we got to go to church, and I'm like, no, we don't.
Right.
We don't have to, you know.
Right.
I'm certainly not going to a church to expose people, because I could turn up positive any day, because
Right.
I'm taking care of these people.
Right.
And of
Oh
course,
my
all the churches
goodness.
closed, and you know,
Sure.
that was a
No,
non-issue. That was just an example.
no, I get it. We just, none of us know. None of
We
us
just didn't
know.
know. Didn't
Right.
know.
Even vaccinated, unvaccinated, all of it, you know, it's all up for grabs. So,
Or in just, you know, long-term effects. What are our lungs going to look like in 5 years?
mm-hmm.
We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We've no idea.
Right.
And child and again, we just had different approaches. He's worried about her developing and how she's gonna. I'm like, look, I'll pay for her therapy. You know what I can't buy her? A new set of lungs, because she's 3. Her
Mhm.
lungs are not fully developed until age 8. If she gets this, what are we setting her up for?
Right.
He's, I don't know. I'm like, me either.
Right.
Me either.
Right.
No idea.
Right. Oh
You know.
my
So
goodness.
it's just a very it's a I know that I'm preaching to the choir. All these
No,
families.
those are big decisions. Big, I mean, huge, and things to take into consideration. Right.
Yeah.
And we're
Everyone went through that. No, I
right.
just
But this is important. I mean, really, a 3-year-old, and how best to navigate the waters for the best result. It's
for
not
her
going to be perfect.
her life.
It's right. It's not going to
Yeah.
be perfect, but let's make it, make the best choice given this what's available. Boy, that's a
It's
lot.
and then my mama heart just like sinking, because I'm like, I can't have her sleep in the bed with me. If she has a nightmare, I have to take her right back to her bed, because what if the next day I'm COVID positive and she was in the bed with me the night before?
Oh my goodness. Oh
You
my
know, just like, and because I just over process, and I just
Mhm.
I live in that space. That's my normal state, you know.
You want to
And
take care of people.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right.
it was pretty intense.
It's very
So
intense. And then the work that your husband's doing is the other side of it, right? So that would be an
and
additional,
people can't grieve because they can't have funerals.
right?
And if somebody in the family has COVID and someone in that home dies, then they're all still COVID positive. So then
Mm,
someone in their immediate family is deceased, and they can't even go to that service, which is
that's
life,
heartbreaking. Mhm.
you know. So carrying that around and bringing that home, I would be lying if I said there was a lot of communication between him and I during that
Mhm.
time, during the
Mm,
heavy parts of it,
yeah,
because we just had nothing left, you
right.
know.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you want to watch Big Bang Theory? Like, can we just
Right.
can we just not like talk? Can we just like go back to a normal time and just laugh a little bit?
Yeah. And
You
pretend
know,
that everything's okay, at least for
right.
an hour or
Yeah.
two. Right.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my goodness.
that's how we coped. I mean,
Yeah. No,
and a
thank
lot of junk
you.
food.
Right. It's like, yeah, what's going to soothe it? How can we soothe
Yeah.
the soul, right? That is
Yeah.
just worn out in that time. And we have to find a safe place for a while so that you can go back, right? The
So you
day
can feel safe
after,
going back. I mean, the
right.
first time I went back to church, it was like, wow. And I took my daughter to my youngest, who is now 5. I took her to
It's probably doing great.
oh, she's phenomenal. She
Oh,
is just the most
aw,
amazing human. I took her to a store. It's called Home Goods. I don't know if y'all have that in
Yes, we
California.
do. I love Home Goods. Yeah, love it.
So I took her to Home Goods. The child hadn't been to a store in 18 months because when I went to the store, I wasn't going to take her if I didn't have to, you know.
No, right.
So she doesn't remember going to a store, essentially, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we go into the store and her eyes are as big as her face. And she said, Mommy, what is this place? I said, this is called Home Goods. It has stuff for your house. It has all kinds of stuff. And she said, I love it here.
Oh.
And Mommy loves it here too, sis. Like, you know.
Let's move in.
You know, right. We don't have to leave. Like they have everything we need here, you know.
Right.
So it does, you have to just hold on for that because it will come back. It will go full circle. We cannot live in a pandemic forever. It will, you just have to hold on. Hope and commitment. Those are what I feel are my spine traits. I keep referring to the spine of a person, but like those are them: commitment and hope. Like if you lose hope,
you can't lose hope.
You can't look forward, you know.
Right.
So it's
hope and commitment.
Yeah, those are the two things that I try to like squeeze and hold on to.
And those beautiful thank yous that come in.
Yes.
Now and then. Yes.
Thank yous and my therapy sessions.
Yeah.
Every Friday, got my standing appointment.
That's fantastic.
So.
Oh, Anna, this has been so unbelievably rich, and what a journey. Oh my goodness.
And yeah.
Just, and yeah, to this moment. And we're just coming, it's like coming out of the fog type of thing right now.
It's so great. Sometimes I have to like really soak it in. Like our daughter turned 10 this weekend.
Oh.
And we gave her first pair of high heels for her birthday.
Ooh.
And we just had to just soak it in, you know. We're like, we're back, you know. I went to the mall and I bought these shoes, you know. I didn't have
a miracle.
Yeah, I know. Like, and we're having a birthday party. We're having a slumber party with 8 little 10-year-old girls. You know, we're all going to need sedatives, but it's going to be amazing because we can do it, you know?
Yes.
You know, we're just, like you said, it's like coming out of a fog. And that's why I say it's commitment, because the fog will lift.
Yes.
It does. You keep trucking, you keep your head down, you stay committed, and the fog will lift. It will. It doesn't feel like it will, but it will. But
you have to trust. Okay. Hope and commitment.
That's
and
it.
The fog will lift. Okay. Anna, thank you so much. It's been such a treat, just a real delight to be able to talk with you and to hear your story.
Yeah, I'm so happy to share it. Now I've got to go tell my husband all the things that I love about him.
Absolutely.
I had to come up. Let me see if I can find that tie-dye t-shirt.
I think you should. I think you should probably. And the
headband. It's not complete with the headband. Really
absolutely isn't. Remember that first moment when he jumped in the car next to you.
Right. Yeah.
And see where you are today. It's pretty.
Well, maybe we should make some margaritas when we have these little girls over here.
There you go.
Flash on back to that Mexican dinner, our first meal together.
Isn't that sweet? Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, I mean, you've just given us some great. I've learned so much just listening to how you've moved through these times. My gosh. Yeah, right. Especially, you know, the last 2 years. So hope and commitment, and we'll, you know, hope to visit you again in the future. Get some updates. I would love that.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure and our pleasure, and to have you on. So what were you wearing? And if you want to learn more about Anna, just be sure to tune in, and I'll put some information in the post for our guests, for our viewers. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good night.